Welcome. This is groundbreaking what we're doing. This being able to wean people off of GLP-1 medications. What we're doing is groundbreaking because it really defies the literature. 70% the last randomized control study that I've reviewed is 70% of people after stopping semaglutide regained all their weight back. This is the reality of the situation. And this isn't a phenomena that is special to these meds, like these meds create this. No, this problem existed already. We don't have any solution to any weight loss program that provides long-term weight maintenance. So I always make sure that I say that right after, so no one's thinking, why would I use these meds if they're pointless? No, you have to understand that problem existed. But any weight loss medication, any powerful aid is going to exacerbate that statistic of rebound. So we just got to understand that. So plateaus. So this is huge. This is probably half of what people come to me for, because it's so wild to me how many people out there, and I say people as in doctors and obesity specialists, that do not even understand the basics of a plateau. And I know this because I'm sharing this story because it makes me laugh. But I had a patient who was, I think, 9 months after bariatric surgery. Bariatric surgery, regardless of what kind, it's mechanical restriction, right? So they're mechanically unable to eat as much, which the GLP-1s do both that and the mental part of it, which is why GLPs are so much better than a freaking surgery. But that's another conversation. So, what happens with people after bariatric surgery is they have an extreme restriction in their calories. So they lose massive amounts of weight. They hit a plateau and they slowly gain it all back over time. This is literally what happens to 85, 90% of post-bariatric surgery patients. It's sad, but it's what happens. And so it's inevitable, right? And their doctor's solution to them hitting a plateau was, let's add a weight loss medication, which the cause of a plateau is caloric restriction over time. So if any doctor or any person tells you to restrict your calories more as a solution, means they don't even understand the plateau to begin with, which is obviously a problem. You can get short-term more weight loss by increasing your restriction. But as you can understand, that's making the problem worse. And eventually you're going to crash really hard. Not to mention, when you get your body to run off of less calories, you feel like crap. Like, that's called battery saving mode. There's a reason why your body wants to run off of 2,000 calories, because that's where it feels great. That's where all your systems are humming efficiently. But when you get your body to run off of 1,000 calories, you don't feel good. You're running on battery saving mode, and that sucks. So the problem right now that I see, and I tell people this right now, pay attention, because GLPs are going crazy and the big pharma wants everybody to be on GLPs, including kids. We're about to see a bunch of zombies walking around because their doctors don't even know that they're running off of half the amount of calories, and that's not ideal for optimal health. We got to beat the plateau, is my point. All right, let's talk about food. With food, this is the one where sometimes people are like, we're not going to go that complicated with it. There's a reason, there's a method for my approach. And having done this myself and struggled for 10 years, I'm here living it with you, right? One of the things that I think is the goal that unfortunately is missed in a lot of programs is, how is the person going to actually sustain this for the rest of their life? Everyone's so fixated on the goal, which for them is just helping a person lose weight. But what's the point if we already know the struggle currently, based off the science, is people's inability to maintain it? And that's where I have problems with ordering food or giving you a list of, here's your foods. You're not gonna take this list for the rest of your life. And what I've seen even worse is when people get, I gotta do this, right? So they buckle down and they get really serious for 3 to 6 months. And then when they finally are at Christmas and they're at a family event and they have a bad day and they feel guilty about it the next day because they couldn't adhere to that list, that snowballs into a huge problem. So we ain't gonna do any of that. It doesn't work, in my opinion, for most people. So what I'm teaching you guys is a lifestyle that is sustainable, right? And as I just explained, one of the keys to sustainability is making it easy, stupid easy. That's what I want to do. And that's one of the cool things about fasting so aggressively, is it gives you this luxury, this situation that it produces for you, is you can get away with not being nearly as strict as you probably have an idea of your body, because this is probably not the first time you've tried to lose weight. So you have an idea of how much effort it takes as far as exercise and restricting your food. Now you're going to notice, oh my gosh, I don't have to try that hard in those two categories, as long as I'm doing my fasting, which is awesome. And that happens because the fasting for 48 per week, not only in itself is a massive caloric restriction, but it also makes massive improvements in your insulin sensitivity. It reduces inflammation levels, and it makes you very fat adapted. So it's really awesome stuff. But we still have some tenets to follow. The biggest thing for your diet is reducing your consumption of processed foods. That's it. That is paramount. And I know I'm not the first person to say that, but we got to reduce our consumption of processed foods. Within that frame, this is where I come up with a 90-10 rule, 90% clean, give me 90%. You're going to have weeks where maybe you had a 75, that's fine. Just you fall off the horse, you get back on. We're okay with that. 90-10 is the goal. 10%, that's your whatever you want. That's your alcohol, that's your junk food, whatever your guilty pleasure is. Mine is Oreos. I love Oreos. I can eat Oreo anything. So you all have your thing. I would rather you do that in that 10%. So it's controlled, so that we also try to look at preventing like binges. Because some people are like, I can go 100% for the first 3 months because of that initial like, excitement too. And don't do that. I would rather you have containment over this so you don't feel bingy in the future. And part of the flow lifestyle when we get you there is like more of an 80-20, 75-25 approach towards food, which I find is also very sustainable, which ability to have some wiggle room. So this is where I land on paleo and Mediterranean. So paleo, Mediterranean, what do they have in common? It's just lack of processed foods. That's all it is. So there's a ton of foreign foods too that I know don't fall in those categories. And those are great too. So as much as I say paleo Mediterranean, what I really mean is the anti-processed food diet. And the only modification we're doing to that diet is we are going to go keto for the first 2 to 3 months. Now, I also look at keto like counting calories. It's not sustainable for life for 99% of people. So that's why even if you're not at your weight loss goal, 2 months from now, I'm going to want you to start reintroducing carbohydrates. But the approach towards carbs, I think for most people, that's best is like a cycling approach, more because of not that there's necessarily magic by timing your carbs physiologically. I think the magic is mentally, where you give your body 3 to 4 days where you're not eating carbs. It gives you something to look forward to on the weekend. For me, it's weekend. That's when I'm going to have my carbs. That's when I'm going to have my cheat meals. That's when I'm going to lift weights. And then during the week, I'm busy mode. So I don't need as much carbs. I'm not lifting. And it's easy to fast too, because I'm busy. So these are the kind of mental and lifestyle hacks that you guys are going to learn over time, because my objective is to make this as easy as possible. And the one thing I'll say, one more on the diet is this will work. This sort of laissez-faire approach will work on 90 to 95% of the people. The exceptions are the comorbidities, right? Autoimmune diseases, extreme celiac disease, and you're eating gluten. Like, you're not going to lose weight if you got celiac disease and you're ignoring that. Extreme autoimmune diseases, extreme cortisol issues, which could be insane, stressful situations, extreme insulin resistance. Theoretically, all you have to do is be in a caloric surplus to gain weight. And so this is where hormone basis of obesity, you have a lot of uneducated people saying things like calories don't matter. And then you have the other side of the equation where they're saying calories only matter. And that's not true either. And I can tell you that without a fact. And so I'm sitting here in the middle going, no, they both matter. The reason why keto diets work so well for a lot of people is because it's harder to overeat when you're eating. Fat is very satiating. And especially with the meat that goes along with it, protein's very satiating. Carbs are very low. That's the difference. And you just tell people just go keto. Generally, they're going to find themselves in a caloric restriction without even thinking about it, without counting calories. But doesn't mean you couldn't easily, in fact, you can easily overeat on keto. Look how dense it is. So that's where you just have to understand both matter. And that's why I love making people count calories for only 2 to 3 weeks, is because I don't like counting calories. That's a lot of work long term. But you do develop this, I call it calorie counting intuition, which is nice. Like an ability to look at a meal and kind of estimate in the future is nice. Realizing there's so much density to calories and things that you didn't know before. So that's why doing this experiment for a couple of weeks is nice, because then you don't have to do it in the future and we can roll with that. Finally, last but not least, the easiest one is the workouts. The priority always goes to resistance training. I cannot stress that enough. If you have time to do cardio afterwards, great. I gave you guys a video of the best form of cardio, which is a specific type of high intensity. After that, if you still want to add some steady state cardio, you can. But we need to prioritize resistance training if you don't want to become a flabby person when you lose your weight. And who wants to become a flabby person? I'm sure none of us. literally you want to approach weightlifting like you're trying to build like I always say like a young guy trying to bulk up. Like that's how you want to look at it. You want to train every single muscle, and the bigger muscles are way more important than the smaller muscles. So glutes, thighs, hamstrings, chest and back. And then if you have time, shoulders and arms, great, but those are small muscles, right?
If you guys found this video informative and you learned, then you're gonna wanna check out this following video that I link. It's all about lasting weight loss. We'll see you there.
Patients who stopped semaglutide within a single year regained all their weight back. Within a single year, 70% of patients were screwed.